"Well?" it croaked. "I found the answer," Eli said, crouching down on the doorstep. "Those nails, which give you so much trouble, are there to pin you to the iron frame. However," Eli held up one finger in a sage gesture, "they don't stay in of their own accord. They're not glued in. There's no hook. In fact, they seem to be held in place only by the pressure of the wood around them. So," he arched an eyebrow, "the reason they stay in at all, the only reason, is because you're holding on to them."
"Of course," the door rumbled. "How else would I stay upright?"
"Who said you had to stay upright?" Eli said, throwing out his arms in a grand gesture. "You're your own spirit, aren't you? If those nails hurt you, why, there's no law that you have to put up with it. If you stay in this situation, you're making yourself a victim."
"But—"
The door shuddered uncertainly. "The first step is admitting you have a problem." Eli gave the wood a reassuring pat. "And that's enough for now. However," his voice dropped to a whisper, "if you're ever going to live your life, really live it, then you need to let go of the roles others have forced on you. You need to let go of those nails."
"But I don't know."
The door shifted back and forth. "Indecision is the bane of all hardwoods." Eli shook his head. "Come on. It doesn't have to be forever. Just give it a try." The door clanged softly against its frame, gathering its resolve as Eli made encouraging gestures. Then, with a loud bang, the nails popped like corks, and the boards clattered to the ground with a long, relieved sigh. Eli stepped over the planks and through the now empty iron door frame. The narrow hall outside was dark and empty. Eli looked one way, then the other, and shook his head. "First rule of dungeons," he said with a wry grin. "Don't pin all your hopes on a gullible door." With that, he stepped over the sprawled boards, now mumbling happily in a peaceful, nail-free slumber, and jogged off down the hall toward the rendezvous point. In the sun-drenched rose garden of the Castle Allays, King Henrith of Melanor was spending money he hadn't received yet.
20,000 gold standards!
He shook his teacup at his master of the Exchequer. "What does that come out to in Melanos?" The Exchequer, who had answered this question 5 times already, responded immediately. 31,500 at the current rate, my lord, or approximately half Melanor's yearly tax income." "Not bad for a windfall, eh?" The king punched him in the shoulder good-naturedly. "And the Council of Thrones is actually going to pay all that for one thief? What'd the bastard do?" The master of the Exchequer smiled tightly and rubbed his shoulder. "Eli Monpress." He picked up the wanted poster that was lying on the table, where the roughly sketched face of a handsome man with dark shaggy hair grinned boyishly up at them. "Bounty, paid dead or alive, 20,000 council gold standard weights. Wanted on 157 counts of grand larceny against a noble person, 3 counts of fraud, 1 charge of counterfeiting, and treason against the Rector Spiritualis." He squinted at the small print along the bottom of the page. "There's a separate bounty of 5,000 gold standards from the Spiritualis for that last count, which has to be claimed independently."
"Figures."
The king slurped his tea. "The council can't even ink a wanted poster without the wizards butting their noses in. But," he grinned broadly, "money's money, eh? Someone get the master builder up here. Looks like we'll have that new arena after all." The order, however, was never given, for at that moment the master jailer came running through the garden gate, his plumed helmet gripped between his white-knuckled hands.
"Your Majesty."
He bowed. "Ah, Master Jailer," the king nodded. "How's our money-bag liking his cell?" The jailer's face, already pale from a job that required him to spend his daylight hours deep underground, turned ghostly.
"Well, you see, sir, the prisoner, that is to say—"
He looked around for help, but the other officials were already backing away. "He's not in his cell."
"What?"
The king leaped out of his seat, face scarlet. "If he's not in his cell, then where is he?" "We're working on that right now, Majesty," the jailer said in a rush. "I have the whole guard out looking for him. He won't get out of the palace." "See that he doesn't," the king growled.